Hey everyone, hope all of you are doing well. In this video, we're going to be speaking about relationship strategy. Now, I know that might sound a bit complicated, and a moment is going to make a lot of sense. However, this is a subject which I think is not talked about enough. And when it comes to relationship, I think most men simply don't know what they're doing at all. And they get stuck into relationships which are not even meant for them. And half of the time, it's their fault that they destroy those relationships as well. So in this video, I'm going to be going through my framework and the exact system I've used to help hundreds of my clients not only date high quality women, but also preserve long term relationships which are actually fulfilling, help support them in their own mission, and more importantly, happy long term. Okay, so the first thing you have to understand is that most men approach relationships completely blindfolded and act like it's some kind of privilege. And in my estimation, there are three reasons for this that men don't like to admit. And I think there's three reasons for this that men don't like to admit. Those three reasons are loneliness, lack of confidence and options, and an inferiority complex of some sort where they feel like women are above them or better than them and that they're somehow special. And as you might expect, this creates a destructive cycle that results in a lot of desperation, social anxiety, and ultimately heartbreak, which is probably the worst of the three. And the truth about all this is that these setbacks are all a result of childhood conditioning and dysfunction that actually represses your primal instincts, which we carry with us in our relationships. So, your question might be how do we actually break the cycle so we can have more freedom, of course, in our dating, right? So, it's actually a twofold path. And no, it's not only about status. Status actually only gets you so far. This will make a lot of sense in a moment. The first thing you have to understand is your frame of reality. You have to actually change your frame of reality and stop thinking of women as complex and mysterious creatures. Because here's the truth, right? A lot of men actually put women on a pedestal because they perceive them as superior than them and because they actually gatekeep their one most important, most intense desire, which is, you guessed it, sex. But let's be honest, right? If you actually take sex off the table, what can a woman offer you? That's the most important question, right? And the truth is that men rarely even ask this question when they really like a woman. Why is that? Well, because they have no other options to choose from, and because they're just unattractive. But we will get to that later on in the video. What you have to understand is that actually 80% of modern women are not even relationship material because women date across and up. So, this is literally how they go about their dating. They have options on options on options. It's like a stacked bookshelf, and they will never run out because that's biology. Men, on the other hand, actually date across and down. So most men are just unattractive and therefore settle for what they can get. And to understand this, you have to understand the concept of a scarcity mentality, because this is part and parcel with having literally no opportunity in the sexual marketplace. And what happens is that when you have limited options, you minimize your criteria, you sacrifice your values, and you make yourself a commodity. And what does that actually result to? It results into easy access. You are basically too accessible to women, which ultimately results into very low quality relationships. And unfortunately for most men, even though they've never even comprehended this, a woman will never love a man the way a man expects to be loved. Because a man who is easily earned is easily thrown away. A woman must earn him because he has value. You see? So women love opportunistically. Men do not love in the same way women do. A woman can be broke and living on the streets, and if a man actually has a liking for her, he's going to dispense with her current situation. Women date across and up, as we were saying. This is referred to often as hypergamy. It is a woman's biological need to upgrade to a perceived better option. And they do this for a few reasons. One of the most important is genetic stock. So just finding a man who is strong, dominant, handsome looking, tall, rich, and all of that criteria all together. This is what we would call a meta alpha male, the modern sense. Offspring, and offspring is basically her securing her reproductive strategy. Who would be the most viable option? This is where a woman gets really selfish, you see? Where she can really love a guy or think that she loves him, but if someone better comes along who can basically provide more of an optimal outcome in offspring, then this becomes more of a possibility. And thirdly is security and provision. How much security can a woman have in any given relationship? Once we understand this, we can go back to the one big mistake actually most men make when they get in contact with a woman. Because as a result of all this, of not asking this question when they like a woman, they end up not vetting her or evaluating her character for what it is and her track record, her sexual past. And what is this like? This is basically like buying a car without checking its mileage, brakes, or overall condition based on its shiny exterior. And what happens is this creates even more problems long term because you don't actually know her. You don't know how emotionally stable she is. You don't know her sexual history. You don't know her core values. What is her connection to her family, for example, or what her outlook on kids and religious beliefs are, for instance. That's why it becomes more important to be asking the right questions. Like, is she emotionally stable? Does she have abusive exes, for example? Has she experienced childhood abuse? Is she bipolar or has any kind of personality disorder? What is her body count? What is her actual sexual past? Is it maybe promiscuity, cheating, degeneracy of some sort, the use of drugs? This all should contribute in the screening process before you even dive or provide commitment. And what is her worldview? This is a very important one because if you're not actually compatible politically or religiously, your kids are just going to be confused wrecks. So the conversations that need to be done are about beliefs, are about kids, are about ethics, and all of that. And listen, you must stretch out the timeline when seeing a woman to test the waters by asking the right questions. For example, meeting her friends, understanding her values, family, and character, and not coming off pushy or obvious about it either. Because most men dive headfirst into commitment, giving it away for free without actually giving women the opportunity to invest effort into the relationship. This is a big one, and it's going to make a lot of sense in a moment. These three elements, which we just described, are actually keys to revealing her true colors. You only see the surface of a woman when you're just seeing her for a few weeks. You don't actually know the in and outs, the inner workings of her nature. So by doing this, it immediately creates a few transformations. You become the chooser and not the chosen. So you're not just blindly navigating the woman. You are actually out there making deliberate choices on who you will let enter into your life. You will signal experience and selectivity. This is a very important one because women do not want to have anything to do with men who are not actually experienced with women. Although you can simulate the idea of having options because women do focus a lot on appearances, but this is a very big one. And thirdly, is you will become a man who has options or who is exploring options and leaves his horizons a bit open so he can know what's best for him. And listen, this is a very important point I want you to understand. A man who is great with women is like a great salesman. You don't need to diagnose. You simply just need to become a good listener so that you know exactly which questions to ask. You don't need to be pushy or desperate about it. A woman will reveal herself to you if you know what you're doing. What this will do is it will transform your frame of reality and dating and create a positive cycle of abundance. And I'm going to show you what the cycle is in a moment because I want you to understand why this works so terribly well. This is called a feedback loop, and it works because it uses those triggers that a woman has, her biological function, and basically reverse engineers it. And I'm going to show you in a moment. The cycle enables you to become the chooser rather than the chosen, as we were saying. So you have total control over your dating life and actually know what you want from a woman. Oftentimes, a man doesn't even know what he wants from a woman because he just has a limited scope, right? This is all because you stopped settling and started becoming more selective by slowing the process down and understanding how women really work. And this is where you start. You start by exploring options, right? Then you go into the dating phase. Then from the dating phase, you're not just jumping straight into commitment. You're screening the woman you're seeing while keeping your options open. Then you are creating a vacuum, so to speak, so she can actually reciprocate effort. You're going to test her, right? By asking her questions, by taking her out, by giving her those baits. So she has the opportunity to prove herself. And when she actually reciprocates effort, she's put in investment into the relationship, which actually transforms the whole trajectory of the dynamic. And she would qualify herself, right? And once she qualifies herself, the work is basically done mostly because this is going to give you more confidence and ultimately more options because you're going to start behaving subconsciously, whether you like it or not, in a different way. And when you have more options, you have better prospects to choose from. And when you have better options to choose from, you start the process all over again until you find the woman who actually ticks off all your boxes. So, why does this work? It works because women want what other women want, as we are saying. So, when you have optionality, the way you carry yourself changes. And women actually catch on those signals almost instantly. It doesn't take a lot of work, it just happens more on a subconscious level because you're not desperate. You can actually walk away from a bad deal. You have authority and leadership because you have influence and competence, right? And you actually understand how the game works, which I'm going to get to in a moment. This is what gives you the ultimate leverage in relationships. Now, if you understand this thoroughly, what I'm about to share with you next will be absolutely transformational. It will literally change the whole trajectory of your dating life. Let me explain. The other part of this twofold part is understanding how women work, or what is commonly known as game or seduction. Because in reality, there is what women say and there is what women do. And these are very different things. Let me explain. What women say is basically just like a magic trick, because a woman's sweet words are just like that. They are intended to create an effect, but are not actually reliable source of information to you as the man. They are based on how they feel in any given moment. So they are liable for change and volatility, right? And they're not indicative of reality or their long term intentions. So they can't really be taken that seriously yet. Then, on the other hand, you have what a woman does, which is her behavior, what women do. This is actually her main tool of communication, is her behavior. Because when a woman wants to be with you, if she's interested in you, she's not going to verbalize that intention. She's going to signal it to you indirectly. So she's going to express her intentions and her nature through how she behaves. And this is actually the real predictor of long term behavior. And then when you bear that in mind, you can actually focus your attention on what actually drives her. What are the core drivers of a woman? The core drivers are simple. And you might know these already instinctively. They're insecurity, vanity, and desire for excitement and danger. So, what does a woman want ultimately, right? She wants to feel validated because she's absolutely scared shitless of rejection. And secondly, she wants to feel beautiful and sexy. She is actually sexually desirable to most men. And thirdly, she wants to be dominated psychologically and physically by a strong man. And actually, these three comprise a large part of a woman's behavior and is designed to satisfy these strong impulses. These are her core drivers. So let me give you an example. When you see a woman on social media, she's posting thirst traps, she's following random dudes, she's actually on 3, 4 dating apps. She has men pursuing her left and right. This is all validation. They are complimenting her, they are showing her affection. Every person is driven by something. For most women, their appearance and desire for attention are basically like thumbscrews that could be leveraged for mutual benefit. To understand what drives a woman, you must let her engage in what she's already good at, like talking about herself. This is a big one. This is how you get to know who she really is beneath the surface. And when you understand these, you can really start to sway her emotions in any given situation, regardless of how good looking you are or lack thereof. So here's the thing. What is seduction? Seduction is actually not about mind games or manipulation. This is actually, whether you like it or not, an invisible game that is always at play, that women are subconsciously better at than 90% of men. They are much more persuasive, much more manipulative than the rest of us. And some of the greatest seducers in history understood this innately. Seduction is nothing more than the art of using these core drivers to create feelings of arousal, tension, and excitement by playing a psychological game with her and become a challenge for her that makes her qualify herself to you. This is what makes a woman pursue you, is when you understand that you must become a challenge for her, because a woman wants to win you over, even though she may not admit it. And she wants to qualify herself to you, but you need to know how to dig beyond the surface. Why is this important? It gives you the ability to influence emotions and actually attract women without relying on looks, money, and status. A lot of men are too hung up on the idea that you need looks, money, and status in order to attract women or to have a high quality relationship. It's actually a little more complex than that, because looks, money, and status are just optimization tools that make the game easier, definitely. But if a man has all three, such as a good career, a big house, etc., but has no charisma, no experience with women, he will struggle with dating. Absolutely, I've seen it time and time again. I've coached hundreds of men, I've published a lot of articles about this specifically, and I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that there are men out there who have all these going for them who still do terribly with women. You can't be socially awkward and do well with women. It just doesn't happen. So the gist of it is that looks, money, and status make the game easier. Yes, but only when you understand the game. You see? The game is always at play. And if you know how to read a woman's body language, for example, or how she is speaking to you, if she's playing with her hair, if she's crossing her legs, if she's fidgety, all these small details are just like insights, indicators of interest that once you know those core drivers and how to use them to your own benefit, you will have the cheat code to basically influence a woman's emotions in a positive way and actually have amazing relationships with them. But you can't do this without actually knowing how a woman works, because you can't take a woman seriously. For example, you can't take a woman's word seriously because everything is emotional. You need to look at her behavior, how she acts, and then move on from there. So, to sum up, relationship strategy is game and frame. The ability to understand her core drivers, influence her emotions via those core drivers by asking the right questions, being bold in your approach, very important, is being able to speak to a woman slowly and comfortably and actually try to get to know her while having a bit of a sense of humor and actually challenging her, becoming a challenge for her that she can win over. And the other side of it is that when you are ensuing a relationship or you are looking for a relationship, once you've explored your options thoroughly, you need to know how to vet, you need to know how to keep your options open, and you need to have, as a result of these two, you will have abundance. And when you have abundance and you have seduction, you have the ultimate leverage. Then you can actually find the ideal woman for you without settling for the toxic ones or the ones which will drain your energy and your emotions and basically distract you from the important things in life, such as work, your mission, your purpose. So, with that said, if you've enjoyed this video, please leave your questions down below. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. And if you actually enjoyed this format, because I have a ton of frameworks to share with you, but please leave your thoughts down below. And of course, as always, if you want to work with me one on one, you can book a call below and join a like minded group of men who are dominating not only in business, but also in relationships. So I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.